Stand in the garden's center aisle for a minute and just look at the shelf. $12 for the mildew spray, $14 for the ant powder, $9 more for the pot cleaner, and another bottle for the weeds in your walkway. 4 products, $50-some. And most of it is going to sit half-used in your shed by August. Now walk home and open your kitchen cupboard. That dusty yellow box of baking soda you bought for $1? It quietly does the job of every single bottle on that shelf. Today I'll show you 9 ways it does, and the 2 times you should never reach for it. Think about what that aisle really costs you. You are not paying $12 for mildew spray. You are paying $12 for a quart of water with a spoonful of powder dissolved in it in a fancy bottle, with a marketing budget baked into the price. The powder doing the actual work is the same stuff sitting in your cupboard right now. So before we start, let me lock in the scope. 9 real uses, each one with the exact recipe so you can write it down, because I know this audience writes these down. And 2 uses you have probably heard about that simply do not work, no matter how many times they get repeated. So let's get started with the spray that saves your squash. Number 1. The powdery mildew spray. If you grow squash, cucumbers, zucchini, roses, or phlox, you know powdery mildew. It shows up as a white, dusty coating on the leaves in late summer, like someone dusted your plants with flour. Here is the simple version of why baking soda helps. Mildew spores need a slightly acidic surface to grab hold and spread. Baking soda raises the pH right at the leaf surface, making it alkaline. Think of it like wiping down a kitchen counter, so the mold has nowhere damp and sour to settle in. You are not killing what is already deep in the plant. You are making the surface a place where new spores cannot get comfortable, and that is enough to slow the spread to a crawl. The formula has been passed around home gardens for decades, often called the Cornell formula. Mix about 1 teaspoon of baking soda into 1 quart of water. Add a few drops of horticultural oil or a single drop of mild liquid soap so the spray clings to the waxy leaves instead of beating off and rolling onto the ground. Shake it up and spray it on the affected leaves, both the tops and the undersides, once a week. One important step. Before you coat the whole plant, spray just 2 or 3 leaves and wait a full day. Some plants are sensitive, and the spray can scorch them in hot sun. So test first and always spray in the cool of the morning or evening, never in the middle of a blazing afternoon. Used this way, a $1 box replaces a whole season of bottled fungicide, and you know exactly what is in it. Number 2. An ant and roach line around the beds. When ants start farming aphids on your roses or marching into the vegetable bed, you do not need a $14 tub of powder with a skull on the label. Ants breathe through tiny openings along their bodies, and the fine alkaline grit of baking soda disrupts them the same way a face full of flour would dry you out and send you backward. Sprinkle a thin line of dry baking soda across the trail they are using, along the edge of a raised bed, or at the base of a doorway into the potting shed. Keep it dry, because it only works as a powder. After rain, sweep the old line away and lay a fresh one. The best part is that it is gentle enough to use right where you are growing food, which is more than you can say for most of the bottled stuff hiding behind a child-proof cap. Number 3. A slug deterrent on hard surfaces. Slugs move on a layer of slime, and that slime is mostly water. Baking soda pulls moisture out of anything it touches, so a slug crossing a dusting of it dries out fast and turns back the way it came. Now here is the part that matters more than the trick itself. You do not put this on your soil. Sprinkle a thin line across a concrete path, a paver, the rim of a stone planter, or the wooden lip of a raised bed where the slugs climb in at night. Keep it on the hard surface, never on the dirt around your plants, because on bare soil, it does more harm than good. Done on stone and wood, It turns back the night shift without a single pellet of poison bait, sitting where a curious dog or grandchild might find it. Number 4. Cleaning terracotta pots and tools. Pull a terracotta pot off the shelf in spring, and you find a crusty white ring around the rim and a film of old salts and disease soaked into the clay. That white crust is mineral and fertilizer salt buildup, and it can carry last year's plant disease straight into this year's seedlings. Baking soda is a mild abrasive and an alkaline cleaner, which is exactly why it sits in half the scrubbing products under your kitchen sink. Make a paste of baking soda and a little water. Scrub it onto the pot or onto your pruners and trowel with an old brush, and the crust lifts right off. Rinse well and let everything dry in the sun, which finishes the disinfecting job for free. Your tools come out clean, your pots come out ready to replant, and you did not spend $9 on a special pot cleaner to do what a spoonful of pantry powder does in 2 minutes at the garden tap. Number 5. Weeds in the cracks of the walkway. This is the one that earns baking soda a spot in the shed, and also the one that comes with the biggest warning. Those weeds shoving up through the cracks in your patio, your sidewalk, your driveway seams. Pour dry baking soda straight into the crack, right onto the green growth, and water it in lightly so it settles down to the roots. The sodium in the baking soda desiccates the plant. In plain terms, it draws the water out of the weed and dries it from the inside, the same way a heavy salting pulls the moisture out of a slug or cures a slice of ham. Within a few days, the weed browns and dies, and a packed crack will stay clear for weeks before anything new tries to sprout. But read this part twice. This works precisely because sodium is poison to plants and to soil structure, so you keep it on the pavement and in the cracks only. Never spread it on garden soil to kill weeds, because it will not stop at the weed. It will salt the ground around it and harm whatever you try to grow there for seasons to come. That sodium warning is the thread that ties this whole video together. So let me say it once, clearly, right here, in the middle. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate, and the sodium part is the catch. On a leaf surface in a weak spray, on a hard path, or in a cleaning paste, it does its job and washes away. But poured onto your garden soil over and over, that sodium builds up, and according to university extension horticulturists, sodium buildup damages soil structure and the plants growing in it. So as we go through the rest of these, keep one rule fixed in your head. Baking soda is for foliage sprays used sparingly, for hard surfaces, and for cleaning. It is never a soil additive. Hold on to that one rule, and you cannot go wrong with the box. If you are getting value from these, go ahead and subscribe. This channel covers budget gardening hacks like this every week, and there is plenty more where this came from. Number 6. Sweetening a sour compost pile. If you have ever lifted the lid on the compost bin and gotten hit with a sharp, sour vinegar smell, that pile has gone too acidic and the wrong bacteria have taken over. A light dusting of baking soda neutralizes some of that acidity and knocks back the smell, the same way an open box of it in the back of your fridge swallows up the smell of last week's onions. Sprinkle a small handful over the surface, then turn the pile to mix it in and add some air, because a sour pile is usually a pile that is starved for oxygen too. Go light here. A compost pile is alive, and you want to nudge it back toward balance, not dump the whole box and swing it too far the other way. A modest sprinkle, when it turns sour, is all it takes to make the bin tolerable to stand next to again on a warm afternoon. Number 7. Longer life for cut flowers. You walk the garden in June, cut an armful of zinnias or roses for the kitchen table, and 3 days later, they are drooping. The water in the vase has gone cloudy and slimy, and that bacteria clogs the cut stems, so they cannot drink. A small pinch of baking soda in the vase water makes the water slightly alkaline, which slows the bacteria that turns vase water foul. Add just a pinch when you arrange the flowers and change the water every couple of days with a fresh pinch each time. It is the same idea as rinsing a kitchen sponge to keep it from going sour and stinking up the sink. For a stubborn arrangement, snip a fresh half-inch off the bottom of each stem when you change the water, so the plant can drink through a clean cut. Keep the water clean and slightly alkaline, and your cut flowers from the garden will stand tall on the table for days longer than they would have. Number 8. Freshening the potting shed. Spend a winter shut up tight, and a potting shed or a garden cabinet starts to smell of damp soil, old fertilizer, and a hint of mildew. Baking soda is the oldest odor trick there is, which is why an open box has lived in the back of refrigerators for as long as anyone can remember. Set an open container of it on a shelf in the shed, or tuck a small dish in the corner of the seed cabinet, and it pulls the musty smell right out of the air. You can do the very same thing in the crisper drawer, where you store your harvest, so your garlic and onions do not pass their smell along to everything else in there. Replace it every couple of months when it stops doing much. It is the cheapest air freshener you will ever buy, and unlike the spray cans, it does not just perfume over the smell, it pulls it out of the air. Number 9. A hand scrub after a day in the dirt. After an afternoon of weeding and digging, your hands carry ground-in dirt, the green stain of crushed weeds, and the sharp smell of tomato leaves and onions that ordinary soap alone will not lift. Wet your hands, pour a little baking soda into your palm, and scrub it like a paste before you rinse. The same mild grit that scours a terracotta pot lifts the grime out of the creases in your skin and pulls the smell off your fingers. It is gentler on your hands than the harsh pumice cleaners sold for mechanics. It costs almost nothing, and a little rubbed into a stubborn grass stain on your knees works too. That one box by the kitchen sink has now done its 9th honest job of the day. Now, before we wrap up, the 2 times you should never reach for the box. These are the myths that get repeated in every gardening comment section, and skipping them will save you a wasted season. The first myth is that baking soda sweetens your tomatoes. The idea is that you sprinkle it around the base of the plant and the fruit comes out sweeter. It does not work. The sweetness of a tomato comes from its genetics and from sun and ripening time, not from anything you stir into the soil. According to horticulture sources at Gardening Know-How, there is no reliable evidence that baking soda changes the sugar in your tomatoes. What it can do is build up sodium around the roots, which only hurts the plant you were trying to help. So if you want sweeter tomatoes, pick a variety bred to be sweet and give it all the full sun you can. Leave the box in the cupboard. The second myth is that you can use baking soda to test or fix your soil pH. You will see tricks online where people pour baking soda on wet soil, watch for a little fizzing, and claim it tells them something about their dirt. It does not give you a reliable reading, and using it to actually raise your soil pH is a real mistake, because you are right back to dumping sodium into the ground. If you want to know your soil pH, a $3 test kit or a quick call to your county extension office will tell you accurately. Baking soda is not a soil amendment, and it never was. Naming these 2 myths plainly is how you save yourself the disappointment of a hack that was never going to work in the first place. So here is the whole thing in one sentence. One cheap box used for the right jobs and kept off your soil replaces a shelf of overpriced bottles. The mildew spray, the ant powder, the pot cleaner, the walkway weeds, the compost smell, the vase water, the shed odor, and the dirty hands. 9 real jobs from $1's worth of pantry powder and the quiet confidence of knowing exactly when not to use it. There is something deeply satisfying about that. Walking past that $50 shelf in the garden center, hands in your pockets, knowing the answer to most of it has been sitting in your kitchen the whole time. You don't owe those bottles a thing. You owe your soil a little respect, your tomatoes some sun, and your hands a good scrub at the end of a long, happy day in the garden. If this saved you some money, leave a comment and tell me which use you are going to try first, and consider subscribing for more honest, cheap gardening tips. I will see you in the next one.